Hey guys, Cole here. Welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. So, rare champions. Which one of them should you keep? This is like a question that more early to going into mid-game players have. And they're like, okay, which champion should I keep? I keep on summoning. I keep getting them. They're filling up my normal inventory, my vault, my reserve vault. I just don't have the space anymore. This will be the answer to that. This game currently, Raid Shadow Legends, in 2002, closing into the end of 2002, we've got over 715, I think exactly 715 champions, over 200 rares, and each and every one of them has a specific skill set. Most of them have very similar skill sets. Some of them are actually worth to get to level 60 and fully develop them. And that's what I'll be getting into. But to get things started, I want to just say that some of the rares that you will need are the fusion champions, and those are very specific rares that will be just needed to fuse and get that next legendary that you're looking for. Okay, an example of this is the fusion event that we have right now. This is pretty clear. You need this specific rare, right? Anytime other than this, you wouldn't really need this specific champion for anything. Same thing goes for Rally Keeper. There's 4 rares here. Aries is actually a pretty strong champion. We'll get into that in a little bit. Spirit Host, War Maiden, and Diabolist here. Actually, these 4 rares are much better than the top 4 rares that are then sacrificed to make Rally Keeper, who is the worst out of all of these, actually. So these rares are required, and of course for Broadmouth, you need the Void rares, which are extremely more difficult to get. They are only available through these ones through the uncommon fusions, but these ones only through the tag arena, or if you get lucky through a void shard. So have that in mind before you go around sacrificing a specific rare. You will see this icon right here, which will basically say that this is a fusion champion. This circle right here next to the level 40 or their level will just indicate that this champion is a fusion champion. So be very careful with that. Have at least 1 or 2 copies saved up. Just put it in the vault and forget about it until you are comfortable understanding what a fusion is, right? Have that in mind. So next up, which rares are the good ones? After I kept all the fusion ones, well, I have pretty much leveled up every single rare that I believe is worthwhile. Okay, this is not even the tester, this is my actual count, and you'll see multiple of these that I actually have a copy of, right? Let's say the Coldheart, which is a clear example of an amazing champion. Look at it right there. I've got 3 of them at level 60. I've got 3 Pain Keepers as well because of the strategies used for the Iron Twin. So get things started with Pain Keeper. This rare right here actually is so good because of the cooldown reduction skill, the heal, and the Terminator boosting that she has. The reason that she's so great is because this skill is really easily available, and it's one of the few champions in the game that has it. And as a rare, I mean, it's the easiest way to get cooldown reduction. And the same thing goes for Renegade right here, where Renegade also has a 2-turn cooldown reduction, but with a longer cooldown, which is why Renegade is not used as much in the clan boss or any other of the bosses. Well, except the dungeon bosses, but not really used as much because this needs very specific tuning and sometimes don't even fully booking it up. These 2 champions are so good, but again, void champions, and most of the good rares that we keep, by the way, are void. Going into the other rares that you want to have in mind is Kale. Any of the starter heroes actually will be usually a champion you'll have at level 60, so it's not a bad idea to take them to 60. If you have them already, don't worry too much about the investment that you did, because you will need them in a place called the Doom Tower, okay? The Doom Tower right here. Some of these secret rooms that we have on the side right here actually require only rare champions, and I think it's this one. I still haven't done it. This one right here is one of the most difficult secret rooms that you'll face in the game, specifically for this rotation. Rare attack champions only, which is a reason why I have, Kale or the Coldhearts leveled up. You really need to have them as strong as they can possibly be, with good sets being the stun sets or lifesteal sets, in order for you to push through and finish this secret room and get those 3 fragments for whatever champion you're going for at that specific time. Because once you get the 100 fragments, then you go and start the next collection, right? let's carry on with Fellhand. So Fellhand right here, you'll see how I have him equipped. Very, very easy to obtain speed, but everything else is a little bit harder, on the hardest side. Overall, if you get him with a total of about 6,000 attack and defense and a good amount of crit damage, he'll be able to farm the campaign at a very, very efficient 6-second runtime. And that is how everybody really uses their Fellhound. But that's not the only thing that he's good for. He's also good for the block damage on one ally and the reflect damage buff on all allies for 2 turns with a 2-turn cooldown. This is amazing for people who are pushing for the Fire Knight, since this reflect damage buff will actually help you get down those shields that the Fire Knight dungeon has much quicker. You'll give him masteries if you want to. If you don't really want to spend that extra energy, you gotta push a little bit more in his stats, which is what I've done right here. I've only got the very first few masteries for my Fellhand. Then going, of course, on Renegade, I've explained how you can have a Renegade and Painkeeper for that. Then we have the Coldheart. So Coldhearts are really, really good for many things into the game, starting from the start of an account where you use them for the accuracy downhill reduction, turn manipulation, and then as you get more and more gear, you will be able to push their damage and actually have this skill called the Heart Seeker do as much damage as possible all the way to dungeon 20. And then from 31 to 25, you'll be able to actually min-max, which is a term used to say that you are optimizing the build of a champion where you know that they'll be doing the 10% cap of an enemy's health, enemy boss's health, with their crit damage. And then what you do is try to get more speed or other such as health or defense if you know that they will be lower on that. So Coldheart, such an amazing rare to have, and that's why I've got 3 of them, because I use every one of them for a different purpose. I use one for the Dark Fae boss on the Doom Tower. I use one for my Spider 25 team, which is very, very fast and built specifically. I think it's this one right here with the heart icon as well. She even has a blessing, the Hero Soul blessing, and of course masteries on everyone. I gave her the War Master mastery. I could have given her actually the Giant Slayer, but the War Master does more damage on that single target hit and has a higher chance to proc, which is what she is really using her A3 for. She doesn't go with another skill by the time the run is over. So it's really being a Heart Seeker champion after a point. Then we look at Scrapper, which is one of the few champions that you'll consider doing. I wouldn't say is required to do. Me as a content creator, I sometimes level these champions up just for a single video, and some of these that I'll go for are just for that exact reason. Scrapper has a decrease the target's max HP skill and also placing a shield on himself if this attack is critical. And then he also places a shield on himself with the A1. This specific champion was actually usable before we had the introduction, I believe, of the Blood Shield accessories, which give you a shield when you do damage. So it was like an option for players who were having difficulties with the Scarab boss. But now, not so much. You can use him still for the dungeons, or not the dungeons, the secret rooms, but I wouldn't highly recommend going for this one. Then we have Gear Grinder. So Gear Grinder, the reason that I thought about using this champion a little bit was because he's an HP based rare champion. In the Ogryn Tribes faction, he has a revive skill right here, which is very helpful for the secret rooms, which is the majority of the reason you'll be using most of these, you know, not so known rare heroes. The reason is those secret rooms and how you'll be building these champions just for that purpose only. Then we have Bulwark. Bulwark is an amazing support, defense-based champion. The reason that I'm saying support is that he supports your debuffers in extending the duration of debuffs. This skill is amazing, and you'll benefit a lot from having a Bulwark in your clan boss team, since from the get-go you'll have the availability of a weaken debuff, an HP burn debuff, and extension of debuffs. This can help you get those bigger and bigger numbers for that clan boss battle, and that's pretty much the only place he's being used. I used to use him. I don't use him anymore, unfortunately, but you see, I do have the mastery still on him, and I did have some gear on him when I was using him in the past. Then we go into Reliquary Tender. This is a great support tier champion. I did max her out for just a video in the past, but you can use her at level 50 still. She does have a revive and fill of a Terminator, and removes debuffs from allies and then places a continuous heal buff on them. So pretty crucial to have those kind of rare champions in your thoughts when you're opening up those voids or even the ancient shards. The void ones are more easy to look up on because they're extremely rare to get, but yeah, extremely strong champion, very useful for the dragon dungeon when you're progressing through the game. And we have another void champion. I'm going through all the voids first because the voids are here on top first. But Bellower used to be used just for campaign, but then with Factor Wars introduced and the rare skill rooms, he is actually now have a pretty solid spot where he's used there as a debuffer, stun set champion, very good in order to control the enemy waves. The reason for this is that every single skill that he has an AoE skill. Amazing. Block active skills on his default skill, decrease speed, decrease attack, decrease defense. Not the stronger versions of them. Of course, he would have been insanely good if he had the stronger version of the debuffs. But even so, just have a look at that. Just an amazing champion where the stun set really shines on him. And it's very much worth it to give him any kind of masters that you're looking for. Either War Master or going for Fearsome Presence for that extra 5% chance in getting that stun in, right? Then we have my favorite, my Paragon. Of course, this one's a very specific champion in many different builds that you can do. This one's the Paragon build with the stone skin set plus the high resistance. You're not really going to see him that much anymore because of all the ways that you can counter him, but there's many different ways that you can use a Paragon, and I've featured him in dozens of videos, literally, where he's unkillable with a 2-turn cooldown, 2-turn duration. Really makes you know, those fun team setups, and he's definitely worthy of getting masteries if it's something that you're looking into, you know, building more and more teams with him. All right, so the next one and the final one from Voids is Doom Screech. Doom Screech is another champion you will have to have in mind. I have one at level 60. The reason for this is that he is one of the few champions in the game that does both a Terminator feel and an increased defense buff. So have that in mind if you happen to get something like a Soulless, you know, an amazing defensive based nuker champion where you're thinking, okay, maybe I should have an increased defense buff before my Soulless does his burst damage. Well, this is the answer to that. Have a Doom Screech there to help along Arbiter, which everyone will have eventually, and Arbiter will be boosting Doom Screech will be boosting defense, and then Soulless will be doing his burst. So definitely benefits the defensive based champions because of this increased defense skill. So always remember, like, Doom Screech is the opposite of Seeker in terms of Seeker provides an increased attack. This one provides an increased defense. Then let's go into Ogryn Jailer. Ogryn Jailer, although I haven't featured him yet in the video, I did level 1 up just for the basically one showcase where you can do and do this skill. He's one of the highest single target damage champions, as in rares in the game. Damage increased by 20% if the target has no active buffs. He has this attacks one enemy, 40% chance of stealing 2 random buffs, and then plays an extra hit. Pretty strong in terms of single target, but the single target champions are not so much required in the game. I would say you can use him, but you would have to have no other options to get this one to 60. I would say the same thing goes for Skullsworn. You really get this one to 60 only if you have Skull Lord Vargal, where this guy gets revived, and then you can use both of them as a way to finish off the Lizardmen factions. So pretty solid champion, but very easy to get, farmable through the campaign. So don't be so disappointed if you don't really use a Skullsworn, or if you have difficulties getting one, you can just go and farm it. And even so, he can be used at the start. Let's say you're doing clan boss on a brand new account, you can think of using him because he has fills this champion Terminator by 15% on critical hits. Fills his champion's turn meter by 50% if his champion kills an enemy. He's got a counterattack buff on himself skill plus an increased speed buff. And then he does have a multi-hitting A1 skill, which is what makes him so good. Then next up we have War Maiden. So War Maiden really needs no introduction into why she's so good. You'll see the stun set is used a lot on my rares. The reason for it is that I need them for the secret rooms where control is more required than anything else. So 100% chance to apply a 60% decreased defense skill. Look at this. This is why she's so amazing. She's farmable. She is an MVP and required in pretty much all accounts out there. I would highly recommend getting one. You don't need to get her to 60, but it's one that you need to keep at least one copy of for the future. Ironclad is another rare that you can think of holding on to because of a unique passive. When healed, will attack all enemies inflicting damage proportional to any surplus heal. This is a very unique skill, again, where he damages based on the heals that he receives. So don't just go out and think of using this champion for something really other than maybe having some fun with your healer champions and this guy, where they will be healing him and this guy will be damaging back on the enemies. He can do some damage, but with very, very strong setup first. Then we are looking at Aries. I still haven't used my Aries yet. The reason for this is that I haven't moved on to the Demitha setups. Although I do have Demitha, I find no reason to just go around messing up my champions. But Aries is a very strong rare, farmable again, and has an increased speed buff on all allies. Removes one random debuff from all allies on a 3-turn cooldown. Then she also has a strong A1 skill. And it counterattacks the attacker when an ally's attack skill with a 1-turn cooldown. Very strong set of skills overall, and which is why she's used with Demitha in a 3-to-1 ratio for the clan boss. Then we have Fleshmonger. So this rare right here, the reason that you will need to consider holding on to one of these is for his decreased defense skill right here for faction wars or for one of the rare secret rooms. The reason is that decreased defense skinwalker champions are not that easy to get, and having this rare, consider using this rare for a defense down champion just to make your runs quicker, your faction war runs quicker, and which is why I have him equipped. Look at that, like 250 speed, 236 accuracy. I mean, that's why I have him. Then we have Frozen Banshee with a regeneration set. She's really used in the high-end dungeons to solo bosses. Actually, she can solo the Ice Golem boss once you get her there. She can't solo the waves, but you can solo the boss once you get her there. Very strong poison sensitivity and poisons through her A1 when the poison sensitivity is up. And of course, masteries are highly recommended for any build that you will run her. No need for so much introduction to her. Ethel, the same thing as Kale, basically. Very strong champion. Again, with the stun set, I use her in secret rooms just so I can get more stuns. She does have a good way to rotate through her skills with her A3 skill. But that's pretty much it. You won't use her anywhere else after that point. Executioner, no real reason to get 1 to 60 ever. Just get one for the fusion for Rally Keeper because it's needed for the Arbiter missions. That's pretty much it. I might just do a video just as a fun way of getting him out of the vault and just doing a fun showcase, I guess. Apothecary, same thing. You'll need him until you don't need him, basically. Just boost his speed as much as you can. He'll be boosting your team, and then you'll get a lot of heals out of this guy, but then you'll be replacing him with better epic support champions that the game has now introduced more and more of, which has made Apothecary not so great anymore, but still in a brand new account, he's game changer in the sense of how much he provides for so little, right? Like a rare champion, rare skill books, big term meter boost, increased speed, big heals, A1 that is a triple hitting, pretty solid in every single place in the game, right? Then next up, we've got Hellfreak and Hellburn Sprite. So Hellfreak, the reason that I got this one, I think because he had a swap in his HP and then a steel vol buffs. I was trying to think of a team to use him for a spirit secret room, and that's pretty much it. No real reason other than that to use this guy. if I remember correctly. And then we have this one right here, which is very unique. Hellburn's Pride is very unique, but used by endgame players for her very unique increases duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn skill. That's pretty much why she's used, and the increased critical rate buff is nice. But she is a very, very strong support in that sense of just boosting the duration of shields in a big team called the Infinity Shield comp, right? We've got Abyssal next. In a stun set again, the reason for it is that he has an AoE A1 skill, block buffs, big heal on the A2, increased defense, increased attack buff on the A3. Very, very strong support. Highly, highly recommended to consider getting one up for that spirit room again. Yeah. Then we have Hatchet Slinger. You don't need one at 60. You can use one at 40 and 50. Why he's so good? For this skill right here, placing a killable buff on this champion for 2 turns. With this one, you can cheese, right? So you can have like a fun kind of setup where he basically becomes unkillable and you cheese the faction wars. That's pretty much the only reason that you're gonna use a Hatchet Slinger for. You don't really need any masteries on him. Very little speed. You just have him there to take on the hits by the boss in the faction wars. All right, stage 21. Then we have Soulbind Boyer. She is, I think I've got multiple copies of her available in my account. Very, very strong, has additional chance to get a crit on. Very strong skills, has a terminator reduction skill as well. Very, very solid damage. I wouldn't be so upset if I saw somebody leveling one up. Not really need it as a nuker or anything, but still very strong in terms of overall support that she provides for the secret rooms, okay? Then we have stuff like Corporeal Cadaver, which is again used for the Infinity Shield setup. If you don't know what that is, you can keep one, but after that, really, you don't really need him in anywhere else. He's a spirit champion, so you might need him in the future for secret rooms. Master Butcher, very strong for the Bomo boss if you have difficulties in there because of his passive. So when attacked, heals all allies equal to the amount of damage taken. Does not work against bosses with a 1 turn cooldown. This is very, very strong for the Bomo, where the bombs basically heal your whole team, right? Then we have Marquess, one of the stronger defensive based champions in the game. Pretty strong because she does have a skill which does like a double hit attack on enemies. Very strong A2, which is why you should consider if you have like a strong defensive based setup, you can use Marquess there for the burst. Metalshaper, very strong for the Scar boss. You use him basically for his 2 turn shield, 2 turn duration for beating on the Scar boss. Basically, you have Metalshaper be the fastest one, so he extends the duration of your shields in the way of refreshing it, right? Maybe I use the wrong word, but he's refreshing the shield every time because of the same cooldown, same duration. Don't have anybody faster or with Relentless, and you'll see that it's very doable to beat the Scar boss with him. Then we got Gnarlhorn, very strong and killable on himself for 2 turns, 3 turn cooldown. I've featured him before in the past for a spider team where he is the tank of the small spiders. Since he does have unkillable, it's very doable to build a team like that and have him be the unkillable tank for the spiders. Then we have Templar. Templar is very strong for the Bommel. You can actually make one and beat hard 90 on manual though. So have that in mind if you don't have anything else to beat Bommel. This guy can do the work, but he does need very good gear and be very careful on how you use him. Other than that, he's farmable, so don't worry too much about that. And that's pretty much it for Templar. And then the other rares that I have is, you know, look at that, another copy of Soulbind. I've got Crimson Slayer. Basically, I think I just leveled her up just for another showcase. Not really needed. Can't remember why she's needed. Same thing with Daywalker, very unique void rare. Because when he dies, he revives and attacks all enemies after being killed. But this is kind of bad because this hit cannot be critical, so it's not that fun. Really. And we also have Grave Shield Killer, which is a great support to Frozen Banshee. They work very well together with the poisons. and they do extra damage. She plays a 5% poison when there's a poison sensitivity, which Frozen Banshee applies. So them two together, she also has a decreased defense. Them two together do a lot of work for clan boss. You'll see that those two featured in many videos. And then finally, Spirit Host. If you don't have a cleanser, you can consider one at level 50 or so. She's very strong, very good, farmable, boosts attack as well, and will be used at the beginning of any new account, basically there for the aura, speed in all battles, the increased attack buff, and that's pretty much it for Spirit Host and all the rares, really. This was, wow, this was like a long video. I hope you guys had a good understanding of the rares needed. All other rares in the game, of course, are not 100% trash, okay? You have to look at their skills whenever you get one and consider, okay, do I need something like this? Then have a look on the different websites or YouTube videos and consider them again. Check on the rating. The ratings are not always the best way to understand the power of a champion, but still, why does this guy get a 4.1 in the Hydra? I'm not sure. Maybe I have to check it. But still, have a look at the champions before you just completely go blindly and sacrifice them. You see which rares are kept. After a point, each account gets, more epics, more legendaries, and the rares really get outshined because of how simple their kits usually are. So anyway, this was the video. Thanks a lot for watching. Subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.